Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Cinema Savvy. Well, not episode, I got the wrong intro there. Welcome to another review from Cinema Savvy. It's myself,
There we go.
George, joined by Chris tonight, and we are reviewing Steven Spielberg's new film, The Post.
Yes, not Ready Player One, not just yet, although that'll be coming in a few months' time, I believe. The guy likes to work on multiple projects at once, like, was it Schindler's List and Jurassic Park in the same year?
Yeah, he shot Schindler's during Jurassic Park's Post, which is just
That's insane.
mad.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're two of probably the best films of all time. It's not like he just, I mean, The Post is, we'll get into The Post, we'll get into Ready Player One in a few months, but Schindler's List and Jurassic Park in the same year, let that sink in to anyone. No one can ever top that. They never will.
No.
And ironically, in the news, apparently he's circling his new project. While he makes Indiana Jones, he wants to apparently do an adaptation of, oh God, what's that theatre? The one which I swear, wow, I'm completely in my own world here. I've got basically he wants to do an adaptation of a very famous West Side Story. He wants to do a West Side Story adaptation while he does
a remake of West Side Story.
Yeah, apparently it's been his dream project, but I mean he does any project he wants to do, so it can't be a dream project.
Oh, I'm not sure how that's going to go, because I think that won Best Picture, didn't it, when it came out? West Side Story.
Probably. Yeah. Anyway, that's the news.
Yeah.
But no, Steven Spielberg. This is obviously it's Oscar season. The nominations are out on Tuesday. We've just had The Post released over here in the UK, so we've both seen it at the cinema. Fun fact: I was the only under 60 at the showing on Friday. That's right, under 60, not 50, 40, 30, under 60. And
sounds like me when I went to see Murder on the Orient
Express.
Yeah.
See, we were the under 40s for that one.
Yeah.
We can lower that one just slightly. But for those that don't know, The Post is about the Washington Post publishing the Pentagon Papers during the reign of President Nixon. Not to be confused with Donald Trump, because this film was basically mirroring current events. I guess that's obvious to say.
Well, that's what I've seen in some reviews saying that although this is dated, what was it, late mid-60s, wasn't it? I think with the
66 and 71, it's kind of set, isn't it?
They said that the themes within this film are still very pertinent to what's going on with today.
And Spielberg said he chose to make this film because of what's happening in current events. Because obviously, Ready Player One, anyone that's in the trailer has had a huge CGI. He's got a lot of post work, so he's just while he's sitting at home, just like he was during Jurassic Park, he thought, why not make another film? Let's get the Oscar films. I can do your blockbusters, I can do your Oscars. And I guess we go in immediately thinking it's got Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep working with Spielberg for the first time as a trio. And that's the entire marketing campaign.
Yeah. I mean, you see the trailer for this thing, even if you didn't know it was coming out around award season, you'd be like, okay, that's going for the Oscars. It feels like meticulously crafted just for that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it's an Oscar bait film.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, though, she is one of the finest actresses of all time.
Oh,
same with Tom Hanks, and Spielberg is, to me, the greatest director of all time.
I have always said with Meryl Streep, though, I think she's a phenomenal actress, but I am do have some resentment to the fact that she always constantly has to get nominated for every single minute role she has to do. I think the worst offender of that was that Disney movie she did, Into the Woods. Just because her name was attached to it doesn't mean that she should be nominated for an Oscar, but that's not the case with this one because she was great in it. That's my little rant about Meryl Streep over.
And to be fair, she has an amazing gift. She always points at someone after an amazing sort of Oscar speech. But no, this film's out. I guess we've already spoke about the plot, but in more detail, I guess we could say, for those that don't know your history, so the Pentagon Papers, basically, if you know what Vietnam is, you know that the Americans got annihilated. And the press the media, the government were trying to cover that up. They didn't want the public to know, to keep putting more money into sending troops, improve morale, blah, 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 blah. And obviously an employee leaked thousands. Back then, it wasn't emails, it wasn't computers. He had to photocopy thousands of pieces of paper, which is just mad when you think about it. They filmed this over a few months, and that comes out in a couple of years, in 5 years, I think, after they said it was set. About the Vietnam War. We don't need to go into details on what happened there. Everyone knows that. And then basically it comes down to Meryl Streep being a publisher via her family, is a family newspaper they owned. Tom Hanks is her editor, I guess you could say, sort of chief editor type.
Yeah.
And he basically wants this. He wants this story out because it's all about freedom of the press. She's trying to make the family paper public, so she needs all the investment money. And you have your very stereotypical board members that goes, no, we need money. It's so hard to talk about this film because there's not, given it's based off real events, there's not much to the story that we can say that isn't well known at this point.
No, it's kind of like our one for Darkest Hour, really, isn't it? Again, like another sort of like biopic historical thing. It's really just down to the performances, again, like Darkest Hour was. What I did like in this movie, though, was the pacing of it. And I liked sort of like seeing that moral dilemma, because that's really the biggest thing throughout this entire film. You can see, you know, thoughts on both sides, like the fact to keep these papers a secret because it will just basically doom the nation into an uprising, and also the fact that, yeah, you have got to keep the government in check and call them out for doing some shady shit. And I thought that they got that across well. I think towards the end of the movie, though, I mean, there's a big spoiler alert, I guess, that like all amounts to a court case, and it kind of glosses over the court case and just gets straight to the verdict. I think I'm just a sucker for like courtroom dramas and stuff like that, so I might have liked to have seen little bits of the court case, because I always think that when they're scripted well, when they're shot well, they're really interesting scenes. I guess I'm rambling at this point. What I will say, I don't know if this is irrelevant or not, but I think it was a very good film. But given the severity of what happened in the events, I feel that this would have been better as like a 10-part HBO like miniseries. Because don't get me wrong, Spielberg does this amazingly. He paces it so well. But there is so much more to this that I feel that it needed more time. And that's not a criticism, because I think what we get is great. But just with the historical events, everything that happens, like you said, there's no courtroom drama, because that would have been another... It's like Detroit. I mean, everyone's forgot about that because they released it in August. Your main climax kind of happens 3/4 of the way into the movie. Then you have that whole epilogue, don't you, of like the fallout of it and what happened.
Yeah, and it takes you away. So you can see why they don't want that. But then at the end of the day, you kind of needed it.
Yeah.
Because over this, it's the very cliched. They're all waiting in the office to find out the verdict. They're about to say it, and the man gets faxed, and the very Spielberg trope. And you've got, and I think that's my. It's not a criticism, but that is my criticism of the film. That I think it needed longer. It felt 2 hours felt fine for what they were doing with it, because to me, this is all about Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep.
Yeah, it felt like a very Hollywood Cliff Notes version of the actual story. I was reading on Wikipedia as well. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it at all, and take Wikipedia for what it is, but it says that they really sort of like boosted up the importance of the Washington Post, when in reality, I think the New York Times did have a big driving power in that whole event as well. Like, I think they were the first to publish some papers, and then they basically say in this film, getting into the ending, we can talk about that later, but this film basically frames the Washington Post for almost instigating the Watergate scandal as well, and eventually leading into that. And I think that they really did boost up the importance of this paper.
And yeah, exactly, because in this you get, the Times are working on a big story. The Times story comes out, and then they get impeached, and then they're in court together. That's literally the Times is rolling. Obviously, we weren't around in that year in America, so we don't know what's what. I'm amazed that a lad got a train from Washington to New York. I mean, I don't think they're very close together, but some lad literally got a train there and back in a day. And I'm convinced, I'm going to look on maps now actually, that you could not do that in a day. But I will say, I've said already, it's about Spielberg and Meryl Streep. However, the supporting casts, the entire ensemble, were stunning, I thought. And I've been looking at the real life journalists and whatnot. Every single person cast looks like their counterpart.
Really?
Not just the actor playing it. I feel that they've actually gone away. Bob Odenkirk naturally looks like who he was playing, although he was Saul Goodman, basically.
I was just looking for his name, actually. Thanks for checking that out. I was looking for his name desperately. Tom
Hanks naturally looks like, I forgot the name, is it Bob, who he plays, the same Meryl Streep. Everybody looks like their counterparts, which is, it's kind of scary that he managed to get such great performances out of people. But then again, I guess it comes down to the credit of Spielberg directing them as usual. But we do get some great moments, some odd moments. If anyone watches Arrested Development, Tobias Bluth is in a drama taking it seriously, which I just couldn't unsee. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of the supporting cast?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the trailer, when you see Sol Good, what did you say the name of the actor was? I was looking
Bob
for
Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk. He is typecast as Sol now, and he forever and always will be. I love that actor. I love the character of Sol. He was basically almost playing exactly the same character in this one, in all honesty. Yeah, you see a few other faces crop up, like Alison Brie shows up for a scene or two here and there. I mean, it's a Spielberg movie. I can't really fault the performances in any way, especially with this. It's not like a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull type situation. But your two main standouts, obviously, are the ones that are top billed with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks. I mean, both the seasoned veteran actors at this point. I don't think I've ever seen Tom Hanks turn in a bad performance. He's always solid. He's always Tom Hanks, though. And that's not like a slight... He's always saving the day. He's always just too likable, almost. No, he's solid. And Meryl Streep's great as well. I don't know who I'd say the focus of the film's on. I would say this is more Meryl Streep's story.
Yeah.
Because I think out of anyone, she goes through the biggest change in her turnaround to eventually publish the papers.
Yeah, and I guess she's got the actual side story arc of selling it off as well. No husband dilemma, but
there's the whole like female empowerment angle they really dial up as well. Like when you see her in boardroom meetings at the start, she's very timid, like she won't say anything. If she does start to speak up, then someone will shoot her down or talk over her or something like that. And then really as the film carries on, she sort of like rises to power a bit more. I will say though, in that aspect, that's fine to have that aspect, but I do think some scenes were quite on the nose, not very subtle. There's a scene that we both talked about before we hit live, where after the court case, she's walking down the stairs and she's just walking through a line of women who are looking at her adoringly, like she's, you know, the Messiah almost. It's like, we get what you're trying to do here, but I think they could have downplayed that slightly. Like you could have still got that message across, but I did think it was a bit Hollywood and, you know, hitting you over the head.
It was like Caesar at the start of War for the Apes when
yes.
they're walking through and they've got that music over the top.
Yeah.
Because she is great, and it is important because back then there was very rarely women in power at that magnitude, I guess you could say. Board looking down on us, so that sort of stuff is great. But you're right, there is one or two bits where they do overdo it, and I think everything that's happening now in Hollywood, for the right reasons of what's coming out and what's being said, this film is even more relevant, I guess, because I guess Meryl Streep is the most respected actress, probably certainly in the world right now, and probably one of the most respected actresses of all time. And I mean, I guess everyone's seen the Oprah speech from recently, so it's very important at the minute, this film, not just for political reasons, but for obviously the Hollywood itself and their reasons. But it's so hard to talk about this film because it's a Spielberg film. It's good. I mean, it's great. It's a Spielberg film. There are almost no faults to it. It's so hard. We can't do spoilers because it's real life events and everybody knows the ending. It's literally in the synopsis, the ending.
It's good. It's a solid movie for what it is. I think it's a very safe movie, though. I didn't come away blown away by this movie. Like I watched, if I'm talking about another one from a couple of years ago, Bridge of Spies, which is still a movie I've only seen once, but that movie ended, I was like, that was incredible. This, I just went, it was good. You know, it was solid, and that's basically my review on this film. It's got good performances. It's a well-made movie. It moves at a great pace. I think it's just over 2 hours, just around 2 hour mark.
I will say,
I
really like the John Williams score. And
I didn't know who was doing the music, and then I got halfway through. I was like, "It's going to be John Williams, isn't it?" It's like,
it's when some of the sort of the lighter tones come in, and it feels a bit Star Warsy and Harry Pottery. And I was like, because obviously with John Williams' age, he's not been working on every project, and he basically had to pick Star Wars or Ready Player One. So he picked Star Wars, and then I guess he also managed time to chuck in a sound recording session for the post, like Spielberg directing it. But it's always great. I mean, I say it's always great to them to reunite, but given recent years, there's been a few films where he hasn't done it for Spielberg. I mean, that's probably, if people think Nolan and Zimmer have a good partnership, Spielberg and Williams is just the greatest. I think the best director-composer partnership in history.
I will say though that with this movie, I never really noticed the soundtrack all that much. It was really just in you talked about it before we hit live, but the newspaper
montage, that was it. The greatest newspaper montage since Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Not as good because the pages don't move, but we do see them how they get printed now. But
all the rest of like the music in it, for me, it was because it's the film, you're so engrossed in like the dialogue and what's going on, the politics of it all, that is your main focus. You don't really focus on the music.
Yeah.
But then again, it's not really a kind of film where you need that giant bombastic score. Save that for your Star Wars movies and stuff like that. But it was fine. I mean, John Williams, he's arguably the greatest film composer of all time, so he's never going to do a bad job.
And also, I guess this had the Oscar equivalent of a post-credit scene, which wasn't even a post-credit scene. It was the final scene of the film.
Yes.
Where
will we get a sequel? Is the question.
Yeah, it's weird. So I mean, I guess if we just say spoiler, everything's wrapped up nicely. The ending, and they cut to a break-in, and there's a security guard walking around. They slowly zoom out. I know what this building is. Everyone knows what this building is. And then the security guard says, "We have a break-in at Watergates." And I actually heard someone laugh at my screen. And
I don't think they needed that scene, in all honesty. Like, it's a bit forced.
I don't know, because Watergate came almost immediately after the story of that. But it felt like, imagine if Dunkirk's fine. I mean, they kind of say it halfway through, like, we're saving the destroyers for the next battle, the Battle of Britain. And you're kind of there, like, if that was the final shot, like, scene of Dunkirk, I would be so, like, I'd end on such a high. Whereas with this, it was like that on your nose thing. But I think that, again, mirrors real life, because they're going out for Trump. He's going to get caught out. I felt like, I mean, the way they use Nixon as well, I love how films use him, because every film does Nixon differently. But this was like a long shot of the White House window. And I don't know if it was using an actor doing the voice, or if they actually used some of the tapes from when he got caught out and stuff. But they had him on the phone, and that was the every time Nixon spoke, it was like a dialy voice on the phone, which was great. And that even echoed today's politics even more about they will never, ever have another person in this White House, not ever again.
Yeah.
Not even at the meals or the church.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as over the top as the Nixon from Watchmen or something, where you have like your really like Admiral Akbar kind of voice and the huge prosthetic nose they always add on. So I liked how they did that. I don't know. I guess with films like this, with biopics, I'm just used to like an ending shot, like Darkest Hour did, cuts to black, and then you get like a little text screen saying this eventually led to the Watergate scandal. You know, something like that. It was almost like, I'm here to talk to you about the Watergate initiative, and then like cut to credits. There was also a reference to Jackie Kennedy as well. So can we get a little cinematic universe going on with this, with Natalie Portman's Jackie film that came out last year?
I was going to say, this year we've had Dunkirk and Darkest Hour, and then last year we had Jackie. Now we've got, I haven't seen Jackie yet, but obviously everyone knows what it's about. Then they even reference it in here, what happened after. I don't know, maybe Watergate's next. Who knows?
Directed by Spielberg. I could see him doing a great Watergate film, actually, especially if it's sort of like following on from this, going with a slightly different angle. I think he could definitely do it. I really don't know what else I can say on this film. I feel like I'm underselling this film. It's a solid film. It's by no means so far my favorite movie this Oscar season around the Academy Awards. But however, it's one of those kind of movies where I think it might take the Oscar just with the subject matter in it and what it's dealing with. I think Streep definitely has a good chance at getting it because it's Streep, and that's really the only prediction I'm going on there, just because it's her. I will say we still haven't seen films like The Shape of Water yet, I, Tonya, The Phantom Thread. There's a bunch of others coming out in February. But I think just with the subject matter that it's dealing with, we talked about the themes and how they're relevant to today. It's Spielberg's name attached to it too. I think he's got a good shot. I
think it's this versus right now. Based at the minute, if anyone's watching this post Tuesday, there's no Oscar predictions yet. We don't know what's nominated, what won't be. This will, and like I said, I feel like we are underselling it. This is a very good film. Right now, looking at the Oscar films I've seen already, and yes, we haven't seen Shape of Water yet, or a few more. I would say this isn't as good as Three Billboards. It's a better film than The Darkest Hour. However, The Darkest Hour has by far the best performance. This is just, I think, when you've got the best director in the world, some of the best actors in the world, not that we take it for granted, but with it coming out in Oscar season, it's not lost amongst the rest. It's there among everything else. Whereas Three Billboards was so unique, so not original, because, I mean, the post is based off real life. Three Billboards sticks out of Oscar season like a sore thumb. It's not, I don't think it's a film that normally would be you wouldn't think that would be up for Oscars given the topics, and it's got some of its comedy and its dark stuff, but it is. And I feel like it's a bit like a Detroit. had Detroit have come out in December and maybe Three Billboards or The Post in August, we'd have forgotten about them.
That's what I was just about to say. The Post will be a film that, given a few months, I'll forget I've even seen it. It's one, wipe it off the chalkboard, been there, done that, seen that. Ebbing, Missouri, I'm still thinking about that movie and how I need to see it again and how unique it was. So right now, I'd like to see Ebbing, Missouri take it, but I guess we'll have to wait to our predictions video. We'll have to wait to the actual Oscars. Last thing I'll say, though, one of my biggest concerns with this movie going into it was the fact that we had Spotlight 2 years ago, and it deals with a similar kind of thing with the whole press and freedom of speech and trying to cover something up and everything like that. And I did worry that it was going to be very close to that. And I guess with a film like this, it's unavoidable, but I will say that they did still feel fairly different to each other. They had their own identities. So there was fair play to Spielberg for that and the film itself for still being a bit different.
I still haven't seen. What was it? Spotlight.
Spotlight, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tom Hanks is great, but when you've got Michael Keaton in the movie, I'm at the Keaton one. Love my boy Michael Keaton.
I just remember when he took out his speech for the Oscars that he might win,
yes.
And he didn't. And he didn't take it out as like arrogantly, but he just had it in his pocket in case.
He looked so humble, like he was ready. Like
he was just. I think he was buzzing to be there.
Yeah.
But I mean, this year, I think I said this on Darkest Hour and Ebbing Review. I haven't been invested in the Oscar season for quite a few years, but this is the one year where it genuinely looks competitively great as well. And at the minute, to me, Three Billboards is winning. But all bias aside, there is one film I would like to take the crown. But right now, I think it is going to be Three Billboards. For those that are wondering what film it is, it's not hard to guess if you watch any of our videos.
Watch our top 5 movies of the year, and you'll know exactly what it is.
Yeah, and Tate gets very upset.
Yeah.
But I guess what we can say is that on Tuesday or Wednesday, when the Oscar noms are out, we will be doing a predictions video. So we're not going to sit here and list every single film that got nominated, because you can just check our Facebook for a status for that, and everyone would know anyway. But what we do each year, for anyone new, we do a big Oscar predictions game where we get a first and second choice of every single Oscar nomination there is. We've got a big spreadsheet for it. We do the predictions. We ask everyone to send us their own if they want to do them, and then we compile it for a gigantic sort of game on Oscar night on our live stream. So it's worth pointing out this is going to come this week. We're just waiting for all three of us to be free, but you'll see our video on that. And of course, we now have our Oscars playlist for this year, which you can see on the side below.
Yeah, and last year, the winner of the Oscar predictions, we gave them the opportunity to join us on a video. I don't know if we're doing that again this year, but I think we probably will be. We don't know what that video will be. It might be a future Battle of the Brackets. That'll be something that we decide. But no, it would definitely be worth doing. Looking forward to that. For anyone watching this who follows my reaction videos and stuff, you'll realize that I haven't been keeping top of reactions the last couple of weeks. That's because I've been putting all the time into watching these films, doing reviews for these. But I think the films have kind of led up now, haven't they, for the rest of January? I think it's really February.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a gap, and then I think in February, well, over here in England, I guess some of these are already out in America, we get Shape of Water, I, Tonya,
Phantom Thread, and Lady Bird. I think.
Yes, Phantom Thread. Yes, that look so exciting? A film about a man in love with women he makes dresses for.
Yeah.
Anyone offended? I do love Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm not the biggest PTA fan, but that film looks phantom dreadful. Way.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to hell for that terrible joke.
So because we've got a bit of a gap, like tomorrow or Monday or something, I'll be jumping back on reactions. I think we've had a new trailer for Tomb Raider, which I'd like to check out because I really wasn't all set on the first trailer that came out. Maybe the new one's good. There's a few other ones I'd like to backdate as well, so look out for those next coming days. You mentioned our predictions video. I don't know if we'll be doing the news this week.
That's a good point. I forgot.
I guess just look out on our social media for information about that.
Yes, I completely forgot about that. Yes, news will return. It's been a very quiet few weeks, to be fair. At the minute, the only news is the BAFTA nominations, and what's the point of talking about BAFTAs when the Oscars are Tuesday? So maybe they'll come back on Thursday. Who knows? But there's really not much news at the minute, people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not doing the outro. Yeah, the post overall, I will say I do recommend this film. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, me too. In terms of our other shows, we are still working on trying to get a Battle of the Brackets out again. It's been far too long since we've done one of those, and we are desperately trying to get one back to it. With Tate in Austria, it's a bit difficult, so we're still working on that. But even though we aren't bringing any Battle of the Brackets out recently, there's a lot of reasons to subscribe to the channel. As I said, we've got loads of movie reviews coming out, movie reactions, a whole bunch of stuff. If you're a movie fan, if you've just discovered us through this, hit the subscribe button, share, like, all that good stuff. Links to our social media in the description down below. That'll do it from us. And until the next video, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.